There's a brand new Micro Four Thirds camera in town. Let me introduce to you the OM System OM3. I have not been paid for this review and the camera was on loan and I've already said goodbye to it by the time you watch this video. All thoughts are my own. But, spoiler, I'm definitely going to be buying one myself immediately. Like, now. As this video goes live, I will have bought one. Because it's blooming epic. Let me show you. How cute are you two? So what is the OM3? It's a tiny, stylish, very robust, everyday carry sort of camera that ticks just about every box I can personally throw at it. Is it weather sealed? Yes. It is IP53 rated, freeze-proof, dust-proof, weatherproof, yada yada yada, and it definitely stood up to the test in the snow in Finland. Is it well built? Oh yes. We are back in the golden years, ladies and gentlemen, back when Olympus cameras used to be made of sturdy stuff. This is an incredibly robust camera. It's all metal build quality, the dials are really high quality, everything about it is super duper premium. And OM System are so convinced that this camera will stand the test of time. The early adopters, like myself, will be getting a 5-year warranty if they buy before March, I believe. I'll leave all the info to that in the description for you to check out after you've watched this video, of course. Do we have phase detect, autofocus, and subject detection? Heck yes, in spades. It's basically the exact same setup as the OM1 Mark II. So we have the really advanced subject detection. It's the best camera, the OM1 Mark II, and so the OM3 by sort of proxy, is the best camera that I've used for birds in flight, for example. When I took the OM1 Mark II to the Faroe Islands last year, it absolutely astounded me as to how many keeper shots I could get. If you are someone that values really good autofocus, whether that's for vlogging or for photography, the OM3 is an amazing sort of do-it-all camera. It's not just an everyday carry, it's got all the wildlife subject detection stuff that the OM1 Mark II has. In fact, just to be clear, it has the same sensor, which is a 20 megapixel delightful backside illuminated stacked sensor, and it has the same engine and the same subject detection as well. So it's like an OM1 Mark II in a teeny tiny little beautiful package, which is a feat of engineering, if you ask me.
What are you doing, mate? Could you spell my dogs?
Do we have in-body stabilization? Yes, we do. My hastily written notes from the little briefing that I had says 7.5 stops. I don't know if that's right or not because I can't read my own handwriting, but either way, it's blooming excellent. Excellent IBIS. Look at these handheld video shots that I managed to get. You can get some really nice stuff for video with the built-in stabilization, and also it's very important for those longer lenses and keeping things steady when you are shooting the burst modes as well. So excellent, excellent IBIS, as you would expect from an OM System camera. Do we have decent video features with an audio input and also a headphone jack for monitoring? Yes, we blooming do. I have a whole dedicated video on the video aspect of this coming out either tomorrow or the day after, so keep your eye out for that. But I will touch upon it in this video and say that it's exactly the same as the OM1 Mark II. So we have 4K up to 60 frames per second, which looked amazing in the snow. We have 4K 24 or 25p, and we do have a flat and a log profile as well. I was really quite happy with how easily this footage graded, actually. I'm quite used to grading on Lumix footage. Yeah, I was a little bit like, oh, am I going to be able to grade it? Yes, I can. It's really, really high quality footage. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination OM System are going to be marketing this as a vlogging camera. It's very photo-centric in what they are talking about, but I think they've accidentally made one of the best vlogging cameras in a small form factor that you can get. It's certainly going to be my out and about camera for the foreseeable, I think. There are also no recording limits. I recorded 4K 24p for over 2 hours before I got bored and needed to take the camera out to get some other test footage. So no overheating problems that I've discovered so far. I found it so refreshing to be able to take photo and video clips in the same camera, because often I might be taking like a smaller photo-centric camera and then I might have the Osmo Pocket 3 or I might have the S5 II. And even though I preach about taking tiny cameras with you everywhere, when I'm filming myself, my camera bag gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was so cool to literally just take one camera, one microphone and be done in Finland. I see a vision of my future and I like it. Let me just go back to the sensor for a moment because I've had some caffeine and I've got my fighty boots on. I'm ready to go to war for this camera. I've seen a lot of people in the rumour forums already complaining that it's, there's nothing new. We need to consider a couple of things here. Yes, there is no new sensor in this camera, but it's very, very common for many camera manufacturers to keep the same sensor for several generations of several cameras. For example, the Sony A1 Mark II, which is a £6,000 flagship camera that's just come out, it still has the exact same sensor in from the original A1, which came out in 2021. The OM1 sensor that's in the OM3 came out in 2022, and we have to remember as well that the OM3 is not a flagship camera for OM System. It's not the one that's taking over the OM1 Mark II. It's sort of sitting in between the OM5 and the OM1 Mark II, so it's like a new pillar of camera. So the idea that this would get the brand new sensor over the flagship camera makes no sense and was never going to happen anyway. And the sensor is amazing. You can shoot burst modes until you get bored and never fill up the buffer. It's actually really good in low light. I took this camera to a gig, an Avril Lavigne tribute night, which was actually really good fun. I was really happy with the low light performance from that gig. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't throw out this camera just because it doesn't have a new sensor in it, please. A 2022 sensor is not even that old. And you have to remember as well that the idea that we've got all of this tech in a smaller body is incredible. The OM3 is under 500 grams. It's 25% smaller than the OM1. The idea that you're getting exactly the same camera in some respects in a small, stylish body is the upgrade. It is the upgrade. Okay. I was in the Arctic Circle last weekend and I was dressed as a lobster and I got a bit fighty in the water and I feel like I've got like lobster aggression left over from last weekend. So quite literally everything that I preach about on my channel for small everyday carry cameras, the boxes are ticked with the OM3. It's got everything, including the highly coveted weather sealing, and OM System are also bringing out 2 refreshed lenses that are weather sealed as well, the 17mm and the 25mm. I shall be buying them also, and if you want to buy them along with the OM3 before March as an early adopter, I do believe you get the extended 5-year warranty with the lenses as well. So for me, this is what Micro Four Thirds is all about. Big spec, little body. Big spec, little camera. I think we need to remember that. I think that's been lacking somewhat. Like the GH7 and the G9 II are obviously incredibly, brilliantly spec'd cameras, but they are as big as their full frame counterparts, as is the OM1 and the OM1 Mark II. And I think there is a market desperately for those Pen F enthusiasts that want something stylish and small, but perhaps more up to date with phase detect autofocus and everything else. And this is that. This is the time to get excited. So I've titled this video something along the lines of like a do everything camera. And what do I mean by that? Well, of course, I mean for photo and video, it will do both brilliantly. So that ticks 2 boxes for me. But OM System are very clear that this is a no compromise camera. This is the camera that has all the burst modes and wildlife and sports capabilities of their flagship camera. It's not a compromise. When I was sat in the briefing, I was like, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, okay, so what is the thing they're leaving out? The answer is nothing. They've left nothing on the table with this camera. What spec does it have? OM System says yes. And that's music to my ears personally, because if you followed my channel for a while, you know that I like to dabble with a lot of different styles of photography. And the idea that any genre of photography that I throw at this camera, it will excel at. And I find that really, really exciting. Now, if you are a wildlife bird hide warrior and you're going into the bird hides every single weekend, perhaps you would prefer the OM1 Mark II or the G9 Mark II because you'll have a bit of a more comfortable hand grip. But if you dabble, like me, and you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I think it's an ideal solution. And as you can see, we've got some great straight out of the camera JPEGs, and I'll cover that in a moment, but also the raw files have been really nice and easy to manage and work with as well. And there is a new computational photography button. Let's get a little bit into the ergonomics now. This button is where all your computational features live, so there is nothing held back here. Here are some other side-by-side comparisons to give you a better idea of the size. I would say it's like Fujifilm X100 sized, so absolutely perfect for an everyday carry depending on on what lenses you pair with it. I particularly enjoyed it with the Lumix Leica 15mm f1.7. I think with that being silver as well, it looks super stylish and nice and small. Of course, when it was snowing, I needed something weather sealed, so I went for the f4 Pro stock, which is the kit lens that you can get with this as one of the bundles. Let's talk about the front dial, which is very reminiscent from the Pen F. Physically, it looks very similar. In the software side, we have more in-depth options to customize your JPEGs. And I think in general, customization on this camera is a really big pillar of one of the best things that it does. I love that with the color profiles, you can really tweak the colors. I like this one that I made myself, which is the usual style for me, where it's like enhancing the oranges, pulling down the greens, pulling down the purples. But whatever your style is, you'll be able to tinker and get something that you like. In terms of the main dial, we have no less than 5 custom dials. And you may notice one of the other things that I adore about this camera, and I honestly think like every camera should have this, is there is a photo and video button. So if you want to take a photograph, all of those custom buttons will be one thing, and then when you switch it to video, there will be something completely different. This is so wonderful if you are a hybrid shooter like myself, where there was many times where I wanted to get a video clip and a photo clip, and instead of like faffing around and getting everything right, it was just like photo, video, done. And you can label these with text as well, so when you change the custom button, it'll show on screen what it is. So no, there is no more advanced like Fujifilm recipes or real-time LUT like Lumix have, but you can get a very long way using the color profiles in this camera. There's plenty of presets built in for you to work upon, and I think it's really fun to play with. But you may have noticed in this video, Old Faithful, I love the standard monochrome. I just boost the contrast a little bit with the highlights and shadows, and I just love it. It always works amazing and it looks flattering, so I tend to use the monochrome quite often with this camera, as I did with the Pen F. So of course we have the brand new, beautiful, intuitive menus, and you have your My menu digitally as well, and that's where I like to keep the things that I access quite frequently. So you can customize those depending on your situation. And then also for quick access to most of your settings, you can just press the OK button and then the super menu thing will come up. So here you can change your subject detection, here you can change your burst modes, and a quick fire round against the Pen F. There wasn't much that I didn't like about the Pen F, but there were also 3 things that I had issues with. 1, of course, the old style menus. 2, it wasn't weather sealed. And 3, I had 3 copies of the Pen F, and the thumb grip on the back came off 3 times. All your pressure ends up on the back and it pulls the pad off. On the OM3, when I was seeing it, I was like, please let them have changed that, and they absolutely have. The back pad is super duper robust, and because it's a little bit wider in your hand versus a Pen F, you do get a much more comfortable grip in the hand as well. So all my minor criticisms of other OM System cameras or Olympus cameras have all been addressed in the OM3, and then some. For the beady-eyed amongst you, you may have noticed that the power button is on the left, and that can be annoying if you're doing street photography with a prime lens and you want to shoot one-handed. Fear not. It's a very simple fix in the menu. You can change it to the computational photography dial thing to use that as the on and off switch instead. In the UK, I use that as my on and off switch. In Finland, when I had big massive gloves on, the actual on and off switch was a little bit easier to wrangle, but you have options. Yay. Another criticism that I've seen in the comments of the rumour sites, I really don't like rumour sites, is there's no joystick. No, there is no joystick as you would find on like the OM1 cameras. And I know some people really swear by the joystick, but I just never have used one. I just use the touchscreen or the up, down, left, right. It doesn't bother me personally. And, you know, there's some people going, well, there's plenty of space on the OM3 on the back. They could have put a joystick in. We're not blooming camera engineers. We don't know what's inside. We don't know if it'll fit. There has to be a reason for the omission. If you do love a joystick, there is not one here, unfortunately. If that's a deal breaker for you, then other cameras are available. So the final hurdle then is the price. And I was kind of like this, waiting for the bad news, and I think it's pretty fairly priced. Body only, we're looking at 1,699, and with the f4 Pro stock lens, we're looking at 1,999. I think everybody on the planet wants cheap cameras, but this is a brand new, really high-spec camera. And what is the alternative? Okay, if they'd have brought one out for $999 and stripped out a load of the features, people would moan about that. I'd rather pay a bit more and have a no compromise solution, personally. And when you consider, like, the Pen F can still go for £800, the OM3 going for 16699 isn't too bad. When you consider the OM1 Mark II is still £2,000 new in some camera shops here in the UK, getting basically the same spec in a different chassis for 16699 seems incredibly good value for me. So yes, everyone and their dog wants things to be cheaper, because of course we do. But when you consider all of these things I've just mentioned, plus the climate for like making things is like expensive anyway at the moment, and you get a 5-year warranty with the OM system, buying with them directly, I don't think it's that bad at all. So if you do want to learn more about the OM3, or if you are considering buying one as an early adopter, please use the link in my description because it shows OM system that I sent you, and that's really cool. So let's move on to some negatives. There are a few, and I have not been paid for this. All thoughts are my own. Yes, I'm giddy because it is a wonderful camera, but it is not quite perfect. As with every OM system camera I've ever used, the 8-bit video versus the 10-bit video is atrocious. It's soft badness in 8-bit. Luckily, it's as simple as changing in the menu from 8-bit to 10-bit to eradicate this problem entirely. But it does bear mentioning, if you take this camera out of the box and the video looks pants, you are likely in 8-bit mode. The biggest heart-stopping criticism I have of this camera is also on the video side. I recorded some audio when I was testing like the vlogging stuff, and watching it back on the camera, it sounded like a Dalek. Like, the speaker inside the OM3 is terrible, and it sounded like the audio had completely peaked and I'd screwed up a load of takes. I stuck in the headphones and checked, and thankfully it was absolutely fine. But if you are using this for the video side, do not rely upon the inbuilt speaker. It will give you a fright because the audio will sound peaky. Luckily, there is a headphone jack, so you can monitor things properly anyway. So it's only a small thing, but it was like, whoa, yeah. I think this will tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people. I also think there's going to be a lot of people just out for a fight wanting to moan about things like it being the same sensor as the flagship camera. No! So yes, I am very much looking forward to the discussion in the comments. I hope it'll be positive, but hey, who knows? I've got PTSD after the Lumix S9 launch last year. I'm expecting the worst. There will be loads more OM3 content on this channel because I am in love with this camera. It's honestly like they've just sort of opened up my brain and gone, what does Emily want? And done it. So yeah, I don't have a single real valid complaint. It's great. There'll be a video-centric video, which is really hard to say, coming in the next couple of days on the OM3. So if you are excited about using it for a vlogging camera, keep an eye out for that. And let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're too mean, I'll get fighty.